They kind of got that little bit better than you mentality. At least that's how it was always portrayed on my end. I'd be interested to see what they would say about us. But
Well, Hendersonville is just a lot better than Gallatin. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than that right there. So that was good. You're going to edit this, huh?
Yeah.
You got a lot of tradition here, a lot of history here, and you know they love their football. That's for sure. Friday nights are a special thing here in the town of Gallatin and at Calvin Short Field.
I can remember when, I mean, you had to get here early to get a seat years ago, and if it was a playoff game, they would put bleachers down there, kind of in the end zone, and there was no room other than standing room down here.
I think Gallatin is more community. Everybody knows everybody, and we all stick together. It's just a tight-knit community, which was all, I think, built around football. And you would see on Friday nights, everybody would be here. It used to be that at 5:30, everything was shut down in town, and everybody was at the gate trying to get in to get a seat.
growing up, I mean, it's changed a lot, but Gallatin's a little more lower middle class to middle class. Hendersonville will be a little bit higher on that socioeconomic pole. I think that comes off a little bit with some of the people, and then obviously leads down to football.
Growing up in Gallatin, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was making the trip to football games, whether they were home or away. I used to use all of my vacation days, even after I graduated, so that I could come to every Gallatin High School football game. But just being in that, we would all go and play football on Saturdays. We used to play out here at the stadium as well while the game was going on, but we play on Saturdays. And you get a white t-shirt and you take a marker, a green marker, and you would write the number of your favorite player on your chest, and you go to the field from sun up to sundown. We play football.
Here you're just trying to reestablish the tradition and the history that was once in Gallatin, you know, all the way through the early 2000s. So that's what we're trying to bring back. I was aware of the rivalry. I think Gallatin's got a rivalry with everybody, but I was aware with the one with the Hendersonville.
I've been here going on 53 years since I came to Gallatin, and I think we have played them every year. They're the only team we played every year. We didn't play Lebanon once or twice, and Mount Juliet, we didn't pick them up till '77 maybe, when they went to districts in the TSSAA. But see, that's the original county rivalry in Sumner County. You know, you got Portland, White House, and Westmoreland, but those were all smaller schools.
Station Camp, we don't like. Beach, we don't like. Hendersonville, we just don't like.
Gallatin's been around for a long, long time. The tradition, the heyday in the 80s and the early 90s there, I mean, it was Gallatin. Everybody in the state knew who Gallatin was, what Gallatin football was all about.
Back in the day, I'll just tell you this, it was one of those things that when a team came here, we would already sense fear. They would be on the sideline, hadn't already taken the field, and we're coming to take the field, and they were just standing almost at attention looking at us as we would come down the corridor and enter into the field. And it was almost like fear in their eyes, and we was like, yeah, we got you. We know we got you. And we had that confidence that if you came here, we were gonna beat you, or if we went to your place, it was gonna be our field for that night.
And, you know, I used to hear stories about growing up, like, back in those days, it wasn't much of a rivalry because Gallatin was so good, Hendersonville wasn't great, Beach wasn't great, so The older rivalries are more like Lebanon and Springfield. Those are there's some old blood there, but definitely the last 20, 30, 40 years, I think it molded into more Hendersonville and Beach. But as far as intensity, I think there's always a little bit something more there with the Hendersonville game. From my playing days, it was always a little chippier. You could always count on a few personal fouls, some late hits, some trash talking. I mean, that's just part of it.
And it was always packed. Even sometimes it was so much so that the sheriff would have to come out and move everyone out of the way so that the team could get to the stadium.
There's some mystique there, especially at Calvin Short Field. That stadium's been standing around probably since the early, 1920s. And the series between Hendersonville and Gallatin, I believe, started in 1941. So, I think there's some mystique there. A lot of people hold on to with the environment of both stadiums.
Legend has it that the field has been here since the 1880s. Now, maybe it has, maybe it hadn't. And I don't know who would have used it back then, because, see, back in the day, you had Sumner County High School. You didn't have Gallatin High School. And it's been in like 5 different locations. You had Portland, of course. White House and Westmoreland didn't have high schools. And Hendersonville didn't either. Notice what you don't see around this field. There's no running track. I can't think of another school, I'm sure you could, where they don't have a running track around the stadium. One year they had a little green insert in the programs about the need for a new stadium, this sort of thing. And so I would read part of it and they'd start booing down there. And I thought, don't boo me, I'm just reading the thing.
I think there's an expectation here among tradition and they want to win every Friday night. But I think there's some games here in the county that they particularly want to win, and that would be whether it be Hendersonville or Station Camp or Beach. They want to win those games.
Well, see, when Calvin Short coached, he beat them 17 out of 18 times. And I can't remember the one game we lost. I think he was down there.
Well, it's Wayne Dotson.
Yeah, what was it? Oh, that goes back a few years. Oh, he was a good ball player.
He was that father figure to every player on the team. He was about doing things right. I can tell you this, we ran plays sometimes. Everybody was going to run that play until everybody got it right. And then you were still going to run it 10 more times. But he was that father figure. He was that one that he cared about this team, put his whole heart into it. And if you went to him and you had a problem, he was definitely going to be one that would be right there for you.
I hope it gets bigger. I hope more people get introduced to it. Maybe some people that aren't from the areas. We know there's a lot of, like you said, the growth. A lot of that's coming from out of state and elsewhere that maybe not be familiar with it. But I hope it grows.
But it's a community. We're only like 15 minutes apart. As a matter of fact, we're not apart anymore. The two towns have grown together. Basically, it's what happens. But Beach opened in '80, Station Camp in 2000, and Liberty Creek, 3 or 4 years ago maybe. Pope John Paul opened the same year as Station Camp, the private school. So we've got, if you count them, that's 10 high schools in this county. And Merrill Hyde Magnet, you can include them maybe, that's 11.
And I think that eventually every one of these schools are going to be 6A schools of the bigger schools in Sumner County, and we're all going to be one big region. And can you imagine the intensity of that thing?
Hopefully this will be a good game. We've not done too well against them. Last year was close.
Playing teams like Hendersonville, Station Camp, Beach, they've all been able to rise up and their programs have gotten better. So it was a culture shock for me to lose to Hendersonville, or a culture shock to lose to Beach. And it's like, this ain't supposed to happen. We'll get you next year.
I think it's one of those things where you try not to talk about it, but it's always in the back of your mind. I know, like, for instance, last year, we kind of felt like Gallatin let one get away that they really should have won. And, I'm sure Hendersonville's probably felt that way through the years as well. But no, you don't really talk about it. It's the rivalry stands for itself. But I do think that, talked about or not, that does add a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder coming into the week, especially for the guys that were part of, the last couple of years. That builds up, man. If it means anything to you, it's got to come out on the field. So
you want to come out on the top end of that thing, eventually. But I think there's a lot of respect between the two programs. I think there's a lot of competitive fire between the two programs as well.
But that as I said, it's a good rivalry in every sport we play them in. But they've had our number in football lately, so maybe tonight, you know.
There's no place like home, and I've never left home. I've always had an address. 37075 is my zip code for life. Just live right down the road here on the water, and I haven't traded it for anything and had a few opportunities.
Well, we have a really good, close community and lots of involvement here with all of our programs and our from the elementary schools up to the high school. Everybody's really involved.
It's turned out to be one of the greatest places, you know, that anybody can live, in our opinion, and we chose to raise our kids here.
Well, we're high school sweethearts. We met in the 7th grade. My mom was a school teacher at Hawkins Middle School for 30 years, and actually he was coming around going to football practice, and she almost ran over him in his car with our car, and he had on his football gear. So we were best friends up until 7th grade, and then started dating our sophomore year of high school.
And the rest is history.
It's been amazing to have all three of our sons go through this program and with these coaches here at Hendersonville High School. And it's such an I think Hendersonville is the greatest school that there is. So my oldest son's first outing from the hospital was a Hendersonville High School pep rally in a stroller. So my kids grew up in playpens. I coach at Hendersonville High School, the dance team, and my kids have grown up in those halls. And so it makes me so happy to see them as a part of this school.
Ever since I was a player, it was always, you know, obviously we have other rivals that maybe the young, you know, newer people consider to be more rivals. But as far as the community goes, a team and a community like Hendersonville, where the community is so deep rooted in the team, every year you always felt, hey, when's Gallatin? You know, when's Gallatin coming?
I feel like the boys can win any game if they put their mind to it. Yeah.
I remember coming to HHS freshman year and seeing all the times we played them, and they put it all together on a sheet and saw a bunch of dubs. So that's the goal. So
it was always a big rivalry because growing up, I think prior to me getting into high school, we'd only beaten Gallatin maybe like 3 times in history. So they kind of like dominated us for a long time. And it was always like you had respect for their program and how good they were. And Calvin Short was their coach. He's a legend in Tennessee football. So you just always like, that was the standard. If you could play with them, you could play with anybody in the state.
To this day, I don't think it's really gone away. You know, Hendersonville and Gallatin, it's only 8 miles apart. But as a child growing up, it felt like almost an eternity, going from one town to another town. And a lot of things is, you kind of felt like Hendersonville was the city slickers, if you will, and Gallatin Green Wave were the country boys. In reality, we're all bedroom communities of Nashville, but there is kind of a unique, gritty, real rivalry.
Our principal, Dr. Sawyers, he lives in Gallatin and is very involved in church and everything in Gallatin, and his children went to Gallatin schools, but now his son AJ is on the Hendersonville team, and I think we've turned him into Commandos.
And our current principal right here, graduated from Gallatin High School, and he's a great man, and we love having him here in black and gold and being on our side now. But we want to win that game, and I know that he wants to go to church on Sunday after that game and have a little bragging rights up there as well.
Every time, whether it's here or it's there, it's going to be a crazy crowd. It's going to be always like how their stadium was set up with like the tunnel entrance almost. I always thought that was kind of cool, and everything's kind of really on top of you. Then obviously here, I always loved playing here. Great grass, great environment. everybody.
The fans, all the older people that come to watch our games, that have been watching us for a long time, expect that to be a good game, and they love watching us. So it's a very good community. That's when the community is a bond, and that's when I see like the most people at games.
I think it's a very important game. A lot of the student body shows up, so I think that I like that a lot. Having a big crowd during games, I think that's very cool.
You know, the one thing I think about in my career, all the times that I've gone to the ring and, you know, the ring announcer have said, and hailing from Hendersonville, Tennessee, and the images that have always come to my mind, this is probably right at the top of the list. This field right here, Coach Hatfield and all the coaches that were before him, and, you know, Coach Beasley now, but, you know, it's the Friday night lights, and it's the hometown feel and the energy. And I can tell you, I can travel all across, you know, not just the country, but all over the world, but having a community like we have here in Sumner County, and now it's, you know, beaches added in and station camp, and obviously HHS and Gallatin are at the very core of that, but it is a special county and a special community, but to me, kind of the epicenter of it all is this field right here.
I think it's the best one in the whole state. I mean, you know, just you go back to the history of the way things went on, like before 1941, if you lived in Hendersonville, you only went to school here for 2 years, and then if you wanted to graduate from high school, you had to go to Gallatin. So you would go over to Gallatin, and if you wanted to play football, you played for Gallatin. So in 1941, the guys on the team decided they wanted to try to have their own team in Hendersonville. So I guess they went to the mayor, and they decided that they were going to expand the school to a 4-year school, and that's how we got to have our own football team here at Hendersonville. So, yeah, just that kind of started the rivalry there from the beginning, because instead of those guys going to play for Gallatin, now they were getting to play for their own team, which is pretty awesome. So I don't think, you know, obviously I'm biased and I'm from here, but I think it's the greatest rivalry in the entire state, and it's fun to play in, it's fun to coach in, it's fun to watch, it's fun to be a part of. So all those things are just awesome.
For me, going back to my time, like I said, Gallatin was the standard, and that was always our discussion, is that, you know, hey, we're going to beat Gallatin this year. We would go back and watch the VHS tape of the 1988 team that was in the playoffs and made it to the semifinals and lost to Dixon County. But that year was the last year that, at least up until that point, that we'd beaten Gallatin. So to see my sons get that opportunity to beat Gallatin probably means more to me than it does to them.
Like Mr. Decker probably knows some pranks that were pulled prior to me being in high school. But I think the one I've heard that was the one I've heard the most about was, you know, they had some long streaks against us, like 20 plus years of beating us in football games. And at some point in there, maybe in the 1970s, our kids got the, I don't know, I think it was our students got the bright idea that we were going to go over there and spray paint their press box. And so I think we had some of our students go over there and spray paint the press box, and, you know, talking trash about how we was going to beat them, and then they beat us up pretty good, I think, that night. So I think we learned.
1980, I could tell you.
Yeah. Maybe we learned that it's not the best idea to go doing that kind of stuff to those guys at that point. So
the kids that were playing told the story that they tried to play black and gold, but it's full color. And they said that the guy would come to the line and said, "This is for the black." The next time they'd come up there and say, "This is for the gold." White. So they took the bruising.
When I was an 8th grader, we went to the playoffs. We went up pretty deep, and we'd already beaten Gallatin once in the regular season. And I just remember going to one of my first playoff games out here, and I just remember we had won by like 50-something points, and that felt really good to see. So yeah. I just know that we love beating Gallatin. So.
Yeah. And I know this year, I think y'all have won 5 years in a row against Gallatin. So I mean, all the guys that are here, you've never lost to Gallatin. Do you guys think about that? Do you like consider that, or you just kind of play it? It's the next game. We do what we got to do.
It's just another game on our schedule. Just gotta go into the game with a good mindset. Gotta win the game.
You know, if we could keep the same players for that 5-year period, you know, we might talk about that. But you know, last year's result has no impact on what's going to happen this year. So we don't talk about those things. You know, we maybe will briefly go over the history of the rivalry, you know, the series record or something like that, just so that our kids know that this is a game we played more than any other opponent in the history of our school. I think that's important for them to know and understand. But as far as like what happened last year or what happened over the past 5 years or 10 years or anything like that, it doesn't impact what we're going to do on August 22nd and what they're going to bring on August 22nd. So yeah, we start over and we start fresh, and we're going to go into this game and try to win one game streak this year starting in 2025, and that's the only thing that we're concerned about.
And so to get this monkey off our back, it is a wonderful thing. It's just something that I can go home tonight and I can eat and sleep well.
Not bad.